Hi and welcome to another story. And today we have part 2 of the 26 Story Treehouse by Andy Griffiths and Terry Denton, continuing from chapter 5, Terry's Story. Back in the kitchen, our automatic marshmallow machine senses how hungry we are and begins firing marshmallows into our mouths. So, says Terry through a mouthful of marshmallow, what story are you telling the readers when I interrupted you? I was telling them the story of how we met, I say. Oh, I love that story, says Terry. We were both lost in the forest. And then we met and found that house made of gingerbread. And we started eating it, and a nice little old lady came out and invited us in. Hello, boys. And then she put you in a cage to fatten you up, so she could eat you, which, come to think of it, really wasn't a very nice thing for a nice little old lady to do. So I pushed her into the oven, which, come to think of it, wasn't a very nice thing for me to do. But, Terry, I say, that's not the story of how we met. That's Hansel and Gretel. It's a fairy tale. Remember how I told you that Terry can be a bit annoying at times? Well, this is one of those times. Terry frowns and looks confused. Oh yeah, my mistake, he says. I remember now. I was taking some food to my sick grandmother and I met you in the woods. You had big eyes, big teeth, and you were covered in fur in those days. Later you dressed up in my grandmother's clothes. Never really understood why you did that. I didn't do that, I say, and that's not how we met either. That's Little Red Riding Hood. Terry strikes his head. It is. Of course, sorry. Andy, how could I be so dumb? Hang on, I've got it. There was a castle. We met at the ball and danced. But when the clock struck 12, you went running off and lost your glass slipper. I looked everywhere for you. I searched the kingdom far and wide, but... Terry, I yell, you're not even close. That's Cinderella. Terry shrugs. Then I give up. I've got no idea how we met. Well, I say, if you promise to be quiet for the next 21 pages, I'll tell you. OK, says Terry, I promise. Once upon a time in a faraway land there was a very big city. And in that very big city there was a very tall tower. And at the top of that very tall tower there was an apartment. And in that apartment there lived a little boy who was very lonely. The little boy was very lonely because he didn't have any friends, and the reason he didn't have any friends was because his parents thought friends were too dangerous. In fact, they thought everything was too dangerous. They never even let the little boy out of the apartment. It's for your own good, darling. He lived in a padded room, slept in a padded, non-fall-outable bed, and sat in a padded, non-fall-outable chair which, for extra safety, was filled with airbags and a seatbelt. He wasn't allowed to watch TV. No, it's not good for your eyes, darling. He wasn't allowed to play on the computer. Too much electromagnetic radiation, darling. And he wasn't allowed to play with toys or any other sort of game. Too much risk of excitement, darling. All he had to amuse himself with were books with rounded corners that his parents had selected for him. These books contained no harmful ideas, no characters doing dangerous things, nor any stories involving dangerous or potentially dangerous situations, which meant that they didn't contain much of anything at all, really. The lonely little boy couldn't even eat proper food. His parents mashed and pureed all his food to make sure he didn't choke and served it cold to make sure he didn't burn himself. That is, until one day when his parents decided that even cold, mashed-up food posed too much of a risk, so they put the little boy on an IV drip instead. And, as if all that wasn't enough, his parents also filled the apartment with every type of safety alarm possible. They had fire alarms, flood alarms, burglar alarms, spider alarms, tiger alarms, vampire alarms, false alarm alarms, and false alarm alarms. They also had the little boy fitted with a pair of emergency self-inflating underpants, just in case he ever fell into the water. They can be operated manually by pulling the cord at the front. Now, you might think emergency self-inflating underpants are a really crazy idea, considering the little boy never left the apartment. But you would be wrong because, as it turned out, they saved the little boy's life. One night, while everybody was sleeping, a power board overloaded with too many safety devices, and it overheated and caught on fire. The little boy was woken by the fire alarm. He got out of bed and ran to the door, but his way was blocked by smoke and flames. He ran to the window, but of course it was locked. So, the little boy picked up his safety chair, threw it at the window and smashed a big hole in it. And then he climbed through the broken window and stood on a ledge on the outside of the building. This was by far the most dangerous situation the little boy had ever been in. Well, actually, it was the only dangerous situation he'd ever been in. He looked down at the ground below, a long, long, long way down below. He looked back into his bedroom, which was now completely on fire. He knew jumping from the top floor of a very tall apartment tower was an extremely dangerous thing to do, but he knew that staying in a burning apartment was extremely dangerous too. Possibly even more extremely dangerous than jumping from the top floor of a very tall apartment tower. So he jumped. Help! Shh, stop, shush. Andy. Down, down, down the little boy fell. But he didn't hit the ground. Yikes! He hit a tree and then bounced off that tree. Into another tree and then bounced off that tree and hit another tree. Boing! And then hit a few more trees. Boing, clunk, slap! Before falling with a big splash into a nearby river. Splash! The little boy couldn't swim, but as soon as he hit the water, his emergency self-inflating underpants activated, and away the little boy floated. Down the river, and eventually far out to sea. Was he all right, says Terry. Well, as a matter of fact, he was, I say, because I rescued you in a pedal boat. Me, says Terry. Yes, because you were the boy in the story. I was? Oh, yes, now I remember, it was me, of course. It was me all along. But what were you doing in a pedal boat? Well, that's actually a whole other story, I say. Is it a long story? Kind of. Can we get an ice cream first? What a good idea, I say. Let's go visit Edward Scooperhands. Chapter 6. Andy's story. Come on, hurry up. At the ice cream parlour, I get a double scoop chocolate ice cream, but, as usual, Terry can't decide what flavour he wants. Hurry up, I say, the readers are waiting. I'm sorry, he says, but there are 78 flavours here. I don't want to make the wrong decision. Maybe you can ask the readers to help you choose, I say. Great idea, says Terry. I'll do that. What flavour do you think I should have? Yes. Interesting. Perfect. OK, got it. Thanks for your help. I'll have one with a lot, thanks, Edward, says Terry. One with the lot coming right up, says Edward Scooperhands, as his scooper hands go into super, high-speed scooping mode. He scoops and scoops and scoops. Chocolate, double chocolate, triple chocolate, vanilla, very vanilla, strawberry, and scoops and scoops and scoops. Cherry, strawberry and cherry and strawberry, raspberry ripple, blueberry burst, banana blast, watermelon whammy, goldfish surprise, flying monkey, Easter egg, deep fried donut, pizza, and scoops and scoops and scoops. Hamburger, hot dog, spaghetti, and scoops and scoops and scoops. Cookies and cream, cheese and biscuits, rum and raisin, and scoops and scoops and scoops. Fish and chips, tomato sauce, egg and bacon, and scoops and scoops and scoops. Egg and bacon, and egg and no bacon, bacon and no egg, no bacon and no egg. And scoops and scoops and scoops. Pokemon, summer holiday, new bicycle, Christmas morning, coconut, falling coconut, bubblegum, lemonade, confetti, butterscotch, hot buttered popcorn, melted cheese, Vegemite on toast, breakfast in bed, marshmallow, snakes and ladders, cactus, no spikes, cactus with spikes, fresh rain, electrical storm, brain freeze, camel hump, fairy bread, bath foam, and scoops and scoops and scoops. Blue heaven, black forest, dark side of the moon, total eclipse, birthday cake, lollybag, lollipop, toffee apple, daffodil, rainbow, sherbet, honeycomb, and scoops and scoops and scoops. Choc mint, licorice, invisible, tutti frutti, salt and vinegar, jelly snake, jelly bean, fudge, rocky road, yellow brick road, winding road, dirt road. Finally, Terry's ice cream is ready. That's a lot of scoops, I say. I know, he says, but the readers all suggested different flavours, and I didn't want to disappoint anyone, so I decided to have them all. Make sure you don't eat it too fast, I say. You don't want to get brain freeze. I won't, says Terry. I'll eat really slowly while you tell the story. All right, I say. Here goes. Once upon a time there was a little boy who had the most horrible, terrible, meanest parents in the whole wide world. They were very strict and had all sorts of boring rules and regulations that they forced the poor little boy to follow. For example, they made him wear shoes, clean his teeth, good boy, brush his hair, wear a hat when it was sunny, and a coat when it was cold. They made him help out around the house, do his homework, eat with a knife and fork, and wouldn't let him stay up all night whenever he felt like it. 7 p.m. bedtime. But the movie hasn't even started yet. It was clear to the boy that there was never going to be an end to his parents' unreasonable rules and regulations, and he decided that he had no choice but to run away from home, and so he did. The little boy loved his new life and was very happy, which wasn't surprising because he didn't have to follow his parents' boring rules anymore. He didn't have to wear shoes, or brush his hair, or wear a hat when it was sunny, or a coat when it was cold, or go to school, or eat with a knife and fork, slap. And he could stay up all night whenever he felt like it, which was pretty much every night. He found or borrowed all the food he needed, and became very good at building all sorts of shelters, especially tree houses. One day, however, when the little boy was in a fancy restaurant borrowing some food, he accidentally knocked over one of the tables. An angry waiter chased the boy out of the restaurant, down the street, and across a park. Eventually the boy came to a lake where there were lots of swan-shaped pedal boats for hire. The little boy couldn't afford to hire a pedal boat, of course, so he borrowed one instead and headed for the far side of the lake, pedalling as fast as his little legs could pedal him. What he didn't realise, however, was that the lake was not really a lake but an inlet connected to the ocean, and he was carried off far out to sea. He floated in his pedal boat for many days and many nights, before spotting what looked like a small island with 2 hills in the distance. He pedalled towards the island, but as he drew closer he saw that it wasn't an island at all. It was a boy, floating in an enormous pair of inflatable underpants. "Hey," says Terry, "I've got a pair of inflatable underpants." "I know," I say, "because that boy was you." "Oh, that's right, and the boy in the pedal boat was you. You rescued me, and that's how we met. I love stories with happy endings." "But that's not the end," I say. "It's not?" "No, because then we were captured by Captain Woodenhead." "Who's Captain Woodenhead?" says Terry. "You know," I say, "Captain Woodenhead, the pirate." "Pirate?" says Terry. "I hate pirates." "Speaking of pirates," says Jill, coming into the kitchen carrying Captain Woodenhead's wooden head, "what do you want me to do with this?" "It would make a great head for our scarecrow," says Terry. "I didn't know you had a scarecrow," says Jill. "We don't," says Terry, "but if we did, his head would be perfect." "No way," I say. "I don't want to see that man's head ever again. I hated him." "Yeah," says Jill. "So did I." "Oh, did you know him too?" says Terry. "Yes, don't you remember? I was on board his ship when you and Andy were captured. I'll never forget my first sight of you, Terry. You looked like you were wearing a nappy." "It wasn't a nappy," says Terry. "I was wearing emergency self-inflating underpants. They get a bit baggy when they deflate." "And Andy was so scared he was crying," says Jill. "I was not crying," I say. "It was just spray from the sea." "But how come you were on Captain Woodenhead's ship in the first place, Jill?" says Terry. "Well, that's kind of a sad story," says Jill. "Oh, goody," says Terry. "I love sad stories." "OK," says Jill, "but you have to wait until the next chapter." "Oh," says Terry, disappointed. "Don't worry," says Jill. "You won't have to wait long. It's just on the next page." "Yay," says Terry. But that is where we will leave part 2 of the 26-story treehouse by Andy Griffiths and Terry Denton. I'll be back soon with the next part of this hilarious story, and lots more stories and videos coming your way very soon. If you'd like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.